Are you a young adult trying to grow your SaaS or your agency? Today, you're going to want to hear what George Paladichuk has to say. He's 22 years old and he's scaled Nail AI to 100 plus clients, and he's still a student in college. And if you ever thought, I would never have a podcast, I don't have all these connections, I don't have the money, I don't have wealthy mom and dad funding everything, then this episode on the Coach U Show today is for you. And my hope is that you see this episode and it'll open your eyes and you can become like my buddy George here. So George, what were we doing here in Atlanta and why does this matter?
We've been in Atlanta for just over 24 hours now, and we were here to meet with Brad Strawbridge of Capital City Roofing. And we came out to film some podcasts, do some videos, do some training. We trained his team on how to use agents, specifically OpenAI and Claude agents, to help amplify their workload and do more during their day. And this matters because this is one of many connections that we have been able to make through serving other people and leveraging our platforms to reach out and say, hey, I have this thing. Why don't you come on and join me and sit down and we talk? And now we have a person in Atlanta that we know. And Brad is a great guy that we've built this relationship with and who we've provided value to by training their team.
But we could have saved flying out here in the hotels and all the hassle of traveling by just doing a Zoom call. Because it was a LinkedIn post or whatever, and we were talking. Yep. And was it I that said you should have George on the podcast?
Yep. I think there's something special that happens when you're in person, and I think that you know that very well. There's a different kind of connection that gets formed when you show up in person and you show up to that person's office and you can meet their wife and the co-founder of the business and their ops manager and the one who's running around doing all the tasks, and you can sit in on their level 10 sales meeting and see how they actually run their day-to-day.
Yeah.
It's a different level of connection that you get when you're in the business rather than looking at it through a screen.
And a software business and runs a nonprofit and is running for political office. Like this guy's a big deal. He would just say no because I'm a nobody. And even if he did say yes and he agreed, I'd probably be so nervous that I would act like a fool in front of him.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't know what to ask. And he'd be like, who's this dude? But that's not what happened.
No, it's actually quite the exact opposite of what happened. Brad was extremely inviting and extremely hospitable in letting us into his business for the day.
The whole day he spent with us.
Yeah. And we got to see, like I said, we got to briefly sit in to their level 10 sales meeting and see what their sales guys were actually talking about, and go to lunch with him and his co-founder and wife and be able to sit and help train his team and one of his new hires on how to use agents to amplify their workload and do these great things that we, A, wouldn't have been able to do over a Zoom call, and B, we weren't accosted. We weren't shoved out and said, oh, you're not anything. No, he welcomed us with open arms.
So George, for those who don't understand your view of connections and how nothing is just random, help people understand.
One of the biggest things you can leverage in not only business, but also life is the people that you know or the people that you don't know, but could. I think people get too scared with reaching out to people because they don't want to be rejected. They're scared of people saying no. But I think that's a false way of thinking because you're assuming that the person you're reaching out to is only interested in themselves and is only interested in what benefits them. If Brad was only interested in what benefited him, he wouldn't have allocated an entire day of his time, which is valuable time as a multi-8-figure business owner.
What kinds of things could he be doing with his time?
And we saw today, he's very well-versed in time management and knows how to use agents himself to amplify his own workload. So he can get a lot done in a day.
Yeah, it's not like we need to teach him.
No, but he was able to give us the time because he also is of the mindset that both you and I are of giving back. And it's not all about me and it's not all about what I want. Back when I ran my first agency, I started doing podcasting as a way to get my name out. I didn't really know why I started podcasting. It just was like, I've heard people talk about it. I've heard people say that it's a good way for people to find out about who you are. And I need people to know who I am.
Yeah.
So I reached out to a few prominent business owners at the time, still are, and especially in the space that I was in, and all of them said yes. And this is even before you told me to start podcasting again, which the exact same thing happened.
Yeah.
But when my first 2 podcast episodes, or maybe it was the first 5, but one of my first few podcast episodes were with a business coach that did over $10 million a year. This was my first ever podcast episode where my agency was making negative money because I was spending so much and I was losing money. He was a business coach in the seamless gutter space that did over $10 million a year and had a pretty big personal brand in the space. One of my next few was a co-founder of the biggest seamless gutter franchise in the country who sold to PE and did all this crazy stuff and did $100 million a year.
Yeah.
And that was one of my first podcast episodes. And all I did was reach out to him and say, hey, I have this show. This is what I do. This is who I am. I would love for you to come on. Would you be down for that? Pretty much. And they just say yes. Because
But you had to say some magic words and be super charming and convincing.
No, I wish I could.
Because if they found out you had a brand new show with no subscribers and whatever, they would laugh at you.
When I started reaching out for my new show, the Nailed It podcast, you told me I had to get off my high horse and you said, George, just go do it. You don't need all the fancy cameras. You don't need the lights and the microphone, but you don't need all that stuff. You can get started. You have Zoom. You can record on Zoom and you have a microphone built into your computer. And that's about it. You really don't need anything else. And so I started podcasting again and you said, hey, who are your top 10 people you want to reach out to that you would love to have on the show? And you said, go reach out to them. Just send them a message. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go do that. So I go and I reach out to these 10 people. 8 of them respond and all 8 of them said yes. And these weren't nobodies. This was Dan Antonelli, which is the largest name in home service branding. This was Lance Bachman.
Yeah.
It was the who's who of roofing and Randy Brothers, like the who's who of the roofing and home service industry. Now, what did I say to these people? Nothing special. I didn't have some magical response or have some magical words that I sprinkled in.
Certainly, you must have done something ingenious to get them to say yes.
Literally, all I did was say, hi, my name is George. I have this podcast. It's a new show. I told them, I said, it's a new show against Dennis's own judgment. He told me not to say that. But I said, it's a new show and I would love to get some traction. I know you have a big audience and a big name and you've done these cool things. And I did a little research on them and I figured out what they did and what their whole shtick was. And I said, hey, I love how you do X, Y, Z. I love how you are the king of home service branding and you really change people's lives by turning their businesses from
a little ego stroking.
Unrecognizable to extraordinary. And I said, that's one of my favorite things about what you do. Would you like to come talk about it on my show? And would you see that Dan Antonelli's been on my show?
Amazing. So you've had these big stars on your show, even recording from like a crappy bedroom or whatever.
Yeah.
And what have you seen since then? What's happened?
The more people you have on your show, the more people want to come on your show. And then you end up in Atlanta, where we are now, and hanging out with these awesome business owners that are of the same mindset of you.
So for people who, let's say they're walking in your shoes and they have the guts to, okay, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to reach out to these other folks in my industry, not Richard Branson or President Trump, but industry specific people.
Right.
And some of them actually said yes. And now, instead of doing a Zoom call, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy that Frontier Airlines ticket for $19 to go visit them.
Yep.
I'm not going to tell them that I was in the middle seat or something like that. I'm going to show them the honor. And it's the night before and I'm feeling nervous because, you're going to meet this big guy. Yeah. What should they be thinking? What should they be doing? How do they prepare?
That's what I was about to say is my biggest tip is preparation. I think you relieve your anxiety through over preparing because anxiety, if you think about it, comes from the fear of the unknown. You don't know what's going to happen. What if? Yeah. How do you alleviate that? Well, you prepare for everything. Okay, what if they don't have the proper camera setup? You bring your own. You bring your own lights. You bring your own microphones. You make sure that you have everything you need. What if they don't have as much time allotted for what they think? How can I condense down my question set to be a 20-minute podcast instead of an hour-long podcast? What if something happens in the middle of it and they can't do the show right then and we have to reschedule?
Yeah.
If you're that type of person that gets so nervous about things, which I was, just prepare for everything.
Yeah.
Think of a scenario. What could happen? Okay, what would I do theoretically?
Yeah.
Would I die? No. Yeah. Would people hate me? No. Would I be okay? Yeah. Then you're fine. And my favorite thing to do before any podcast episode is really heavily research who you're actually going to be talking to.
Yeah.
Who am I sitting next to? What are they all about?
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things that I've been able to do, especially on the Dan Antonelli episode.
Yeah.
I did a ton of research on him before figuring out where he came from, what his original signing business was back in the early 2000s when he first started. And I bring all of that up in the intro, much like you did today.
Yeah.
And I say, hey, this is Dan Antonelli.
That changed the tone of the conversation.
Exactly.
They see that that's honoring them.
They see that you have done your homework. And when they see that you have done your homework, a mindset shift happens in their eyes where they see, okay, this guy's serious. He's serious. He wants to take this seriously. He's going to come prepared. I should give a little bit more. And they do.
What if they're an introvert and they don't have charisma and they're not great at talking like you are?
Practice. The only way that you get better at something is by doing. And so practice. If you don't want to go out and film your first episode and be all scared, that's okay. You can practice in the mirror. You can practice recording yourself, pretending that you have a guest on. You can ask a friend or a spouse or a partner to be a pretend guest and ask you questions or give you feedback on your question.
Just record it on your iPhone like we're doing here. You don't have to publish it.
No, you can put a fake stuffed doll right here and then sit right there and then pretend to have this conversation and say, I don't like how I said that, or I should change my posture, or whatever. Yeah. Practice.
I like to have mock interviews with like Grok or ChatGPT.
That's great, especially with the voice model that they use, especially on ChatGPT, where you can seriously say, hey, I have this podcast. Here's the entire situation. I have a new podcast. Here's this person who's coming on. First of all, I want you to do all of the research that you can on this person, find out everything you can know. Then after you've done that, you're going to assume that role of that person. And then I'm going to present you with these podcast questions. You are going to answer as that person to help me prepare.
Yeah. And we'll go back and forth, or you can be harder on me. Oh, this is easy.
Yep.
Try to trip me up a little bit.
Yep.
Think of other angles give me critiques along the way on how I could do better.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite uses of that voice model is mock conversations, whether it's sales, whether it's podcasting, whether it's interviews for a job, negotiating.
Yep. And then podcasting for sure.
Yep. 100%.
So today went super. I give it an A+. You were fantastic.
Thank you.
I think a lot of it was the prep that you did in advance and coming out in person raises the energy level. And we also had a meal before we had the podcast. Why is it important to build that connection and the energy versus just going cold straight into a podcast?
This is actually really good because I've had both experiences in person as well. Being able to break the ice, you could say, and have the initial awkward, weird conversation before you get on camera is a game changer. It truly does open up the relationship, and it opens up each of the people to be a lot more comfortable with talking about whatever. We got to learn a lot about what Brad did in his day-to-day, what he was up to, what he was planning on for the future. Yeah. We got to learn everything about what he had going on, or even hopping on the podcast, which was great because then by the time we actually got on camera, I already felt like I was friends with Brad.
Exactly.
I already felt like he was a buddy of mine who were just sitting down and have a conversation. And that's what made it flow so seamlessly. I was on a podcast with Chris Lee, who I drove out to Pasco, Washington, and I was only able to be out there for a short amount of time, and they were very busy during the day. And so we didn't have as much time to sit and chat as what me and him would have preferred. And I could tell that there was a different dynamic in the podcast because of that. And not that the podcast was bad, not that Chris was a bad guest, but it's just that the circumstance of the day led to, unfortunately, a less open and friendly episode. And I think that from now on, now seeing both sides, I have a better strategy in my mind of, okay, even if you don't go to a meet, or even if you don't hang out for a couple hours before the episode, what to help break the ice? What type of conversation can you have? What type of preemptive questions can you ask to help loosen that tension?
And it's a different vibe. Would you agree that the vibe is more important than the actual questions and words being said?
Oh yeah, because I think the vibe dictates the question.
Yeah.
And I think the vibe dictates what's actually being said, because if I'm sitting here and I have never met you before, and this is the first time we're interacting, and I'm like, so, Dennis, what do you do?
How do I pronounce your last name?
How do I, both of you put up a wall.
Yeah.
And
you can see it.
And when you see that, you can tell that the responses, the way that I ask you questions is going to be extremely rigid and structured because that's what I prepared for, right? That's what I have.
Yeah.
And the way that you answer those questions is going to be very artificial and very prepared and very structured, because you don't have the comfortability to relax in your chair and sit back and say, you know what, I am just talking to a friend. Yeah. I am just sitting here with Brad.
The context is so different. My biggest pet peeve from coaching a lot of young adults who've started podcasts is in the very beginning, they say, So tell the audience who you are.
Yeah. And
What
I've
a
been guilty about
lazy
that.
thing to do.
Yeah, I've been guilty of
The
that.
best thing to do is in the beginning, in the very first sentence of the podcast, you need to say who this is for and why this is valuable.
Yeah.
And then tie that into why this is the person that can answer that question, why it's worth their time.
Yep.
Then to show respect and honor, you trot out 4 or 5 quick little stats about that person.
Yeah.
And when you do that, they realize, oh, A, I know where this is going.
Yeah.
B, they've actually done their research. So we've set kind of the framework of how it's going to go.
Yep.
And then because you've seeded where this is going, so I said, hey, you're a young adult, you have an agency or a SaaS that you're trying to grow. This is the power of podcasting and building relationships, especially in person.
Yep.
I've already set the tone. So now when I ask the first question, you're already ready for that.
Yeah. Because I can assume what's coming next.
Because you know who you're
great.
talking to,
Yeah.
because I said, these are other young adults.
Yep.
They have agencies and SaaS companies.
Yep.
And I didn't say software companies. I didn't say software as a service.
Yeah.
Because the audience that will see this, they already know what SaaS is. I don't need to explain AI is artificial intelligence. Yeah. So
Which
just be
is-
very specific on where this is valuable.
Yeah. Which is, you can see the shift in the guest
Yeah.
when that happens. Me and Dennis both did an episode with Brad.
Yeah.
Both great episodes, but Dennis obviously has a lot more experience and a lot more wherewithal to be able to remember, okay, I'm gonna first introduce who this is for, who the episode is for, why they should watch, who this person is,
Yeah.
why this person is relevant to the conversation. And those are the types of reactions you get when you come with a structured, prepared opening like that. And even before this podcast, you stood there for 30 seconds to 2 minutes to think about, okay, what am I going to say? Who is this for?
Always. It sets the tone.
Exactly.
And also what you might notice, and George picked up on it quickly because he's a genius, is that creates a positive mention.
Yeah.
So when you're with good people and you say something that's genuinely complimentary, like a genuine, not like some fake polite thing that you say about them. If they're a good guy, they will reciprocate.
Yep.
And they'll say something good about you. And if you're listening very carefully, then you will know. And the people that edit your videos or the AI that comes in and watch, like Grok can now watch videos,
Yep.
they will pick up on that positive mention and then gather like a crazy squirrel all these positive mentions and then sprinkle that across your marketing, put it in your intros, put it in your speeches, put it in all your stuff that makes all your content that much more powerful. And then to magnify that even further, when someone says something like that and says, oh, shucks, thank you. Don't do that. You say, can I quote you on that?
Can I quote you on that?
And they always say yes. And then they usually say, in addition, compliment, compliment, compliment. They usually go even further with that. I know this because I've done this several thousand times.
Look at the podcast episode with Dennis and Lynn Askin. This, you can see it laid out exactly like that.
And so that is more powerful than a testimonial. A testimonial is like this forced confession.
Right.
Say how good my products and services are, how you love me, and how you would recommend me to everybody. Like that just comes off as fake.
Yeah. I've seen it happen. Like I've asked clients for testimonials where they'll hop on the Zoom
We don't
call.
use the word testimonial.
Yeah, no. The first testimonial I ever got,
Yeah.
that has never been published because it was so bad. Because I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God, I can't publish this.
It's so awkward.
It was
to do
awkward. It was
that.
weird. And I said, he put his hat on and he sits there and I go, all right, great. I open it up and I'm with so-and-so of this company and he's been a client of ours for this long and we've done some really cool things together. Dennis, can you tell us a little bit about what we've actually done for you and how we've done that? George, you guys built me some stuff. We started about 2 months ago and it's working great.
That's just
How
weak.
believable is that?
Yeah.
How believable is that? Not at all.
It's just flat.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And you have to have a strategic way to bring out the genuine compliments and
And it's the vibe. It's not the words. He could be saying the words like, yeah, your software is pretty good. I really like it. I think it's pretty good.
And that's
I'd
exactly
like
what
to
happened.
recommend it. And I think you guys do a good job.
Yep. And
It's
that's
weak.
exactly what happened.
It's the vibe. The vibe is more important than communication. And that's what a podcast brings out.
Yep.
And that's why, if we can, we want to meet people in person. Because the vibe is just 10 times stronger, as you guys know.
Exactly.
And all you need is one. One Brad who says something good about you. You clip that, you turn it into a Facebook, a YouTube short, a Twitter, a LinkedIn. You can boost that.
$1 a day.
On Instagram, you can boost the reel. You can boost it on every single channel.
Yep.
And you can boost it, in George's case, to other people that are members of the National Roofing Contractors Association, or people who use roofing software, which is not consumers, but they're actual real roofers, or people that have been on your podcast before, or people that have watched an episode before, or people that have been to your website, which is a retargeting pixel. If you don't know how to set up your retargeting pixel inside the universal container of Google Tag Manager, you can be like, Dennis mentioned Google Tag Manager and a container that has pixels, press allow, and then give me access and I'll start building all this stuff. And so now you used the podcast as a vehicle to collect high influence, high credibility moments like trust.
Yep.
And that you also then use the AI to process it, to distill it, to concentrate the power of that, and use that to drive more sales for your agency and for your software product. Because AI makes all these software things look the same. Like, I'm sure there's 50 other companies that do voice agent, how more than that. And if you run an agency, I'm sure there's 1,000 other agencies that all claim that they can do whatever it is that you say that you can do. Like, how are you any different than these other guys? You want to drive a rented Lamborghini? So do the other 1,000 other guys. How do you really stand out?
Influence.
Do what George is doing.
Influence.
Take the extra step.
My favorite two examples are Danny Lieberant and Marco Cipollone, because Danny has taken this exact playbook and turned from a kid no different than myself or no different
You
than
should watch his very first podcast.
I would love to watch his very first
Watch,
podcast.
I was his first guest.
Right? As you were mine.
Yeah.
Yep.
And watch, I don't want to say it was terrible,
You can say it was.
but it was so bad, he said, can you delete that now? Now, initially it was out there, but then once he got all these big names in, he said, just that first one, that doesn't make me look good because I didn't answer the questions very well. And I didn't really learn how to, I stuttered and all this and that. And I thought it was fine, but okay, fine. I deleted it.
Yeah.
That's totally fine. But the reason why I did the throwaway podcast was I just wanted to get because he was giving me all the excuses.
Yep. Same excuses I gave you.
Yeah. I said, we've already been talking for 45 minutes on Zoom. So why don't we just do a 15-minute podcast and I'll interview you on what you already told me.
Him and Marco are my two favorite cases of this, because Danny was able to turn himself into one of the most prevalent faces in pest control. And they've been able to grow.
He's the guy.
He's the
best-selling book, owner of $30 million agency, like partnerships. You go to Pest World, which is their big industry conference. He's a celebrity. People come up to him. They want to take pictures, all that kind of stuff. But would you have known 3 years ago, he was a nobody?
Yeah.
If you look at him now, you're like, obviously, look, he's a pro. You can see he's got the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to say, oh, yeah, look at him.
Yeah. He started the same way that I did.
Look at where he was 3 years ago.
Yeah. Same thing with Marco. He's been able to leverage his influence. You can see it when you guys went to the HVAC conference over the fall.
That's right.
Where that was my first introduction to Marco, and I was like, oh, wow, he's got to be somebody, because he's here with Joe, what's his last name? Joe Crisara.
Yeah.
He's with Dennis. He's with Lance Bachman running this campaign for the Roofing Process Con. And I'm like, oh, Marco's legit. He's with all these other people.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Yeah. And we did. We walked around to all the different places and met people in the hallway and came up to them. And I was his videographer.
Yep.
Because he'd start a conversation asking, because he's good at asking questions. And then he or I would come in and say, this is so good. Can we film a little podcast real quick? Like a little 5-minute, because this conversation you're talking about, that would be great for the podcast.
Yep.
And then I would just quickly clip. And then I would hold the phone and these two would just continue talking. And then the beauty of that at this is like a whole nother sort of side thing, but at conferences, so people look at each other face to face. So let's say you and I are having a conversation, and then Marco's holding the phone over here, but you're not looking at the phone. We're just having a conversation. So it's the same dynamic that you talked about before, the sort of like warm up time, and we have a conversation, same thing. And you can do that even within 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's the same concept, just condensed from a day of hanging out with Brad to 2 minutes of conversation.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing that happens. And then you also get other people interested, because then they're like, oh, who's this guy with 2 microphones and a phone? What are they talking about? And they listen in, and then you peel off and you finish the thing. And you say, oh, thank you. And you peel off and someone else has a question to ask you. Happened to me many times, right?
Yeah.
The same conversation happens, and then it just trifles.
So then you become media. And then now the key is media is often hard to get because you have to establish the first credential. But once you're established, like I've been going to CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, which is the big one, as media for many years. And because I'm media, then I can go to media at other conferences because they see that I'm media at all these other places. So a couple months ago, I was at CES and I interviewed the CMO of Samsung. Samsung has produced 200 million TVs, more TVs than anyone on the planet. And they have this new robot that does crazy things.
Yeah.
And they have all these appliances that
Also do crazy
do
things.
things that are like, your kitchen's not supposed to be able to do that. That's too far, okay? Like criticizing me about my diet, the fridge telling me about, okay, like I see how you guys did that, but I'm not cool with that. I'm gonna turn that feature off.
Yeah, I need my fridge to be a fridge.
But I met the folks from Hyundai, from Lego, from Bosch. I'm interviewing the C-level executives at billion-dollar companies. I'm just a guy. And you would think that I came with the whole TV crew and I'm like NBC News or something. No, I'm just a guy, literally with an iPhone and a tripod. And the funny thing, like I was at AHR, which is the big one for HVAC people, 3 or 4 weeks ago with Luke. And I talked to the folks at Service Titan, at Company Cam. Anyway, I don't want to name drop, but all the major players in that industry. And the funny thing is that when I go up there, and I've done some research on who these companies are, so I'm not going to ask dumb questions. So I'll ask a couple interesting questions to demonstrate I understand. And I'll say, wow, that's a really good answer. I would love to feature this on my YouTube. I would love to put on my YouTube. Because we serve a lot of contractors and there's a lot of agencies and a lot of young adults and a lot of folks that follow this channel, right? You could look up the channel. I got a couple million views, right? So it's legit. But you'll talk to, and if they're in the booth, then you would figure like, oh, if you're in the booth, you're there to talk to people that come by. But because they see you as media, or even if you're just an attendee, you don't have to, media adds an extra level of, it's media. No, but we just had a great conversation. Why don't you just say what you just said? I'm going to go get our CEO. I want the CEO. Okay. So they bring the CEO over. Oh, hi, I'm the CEO of this company. That is so awesome. I'm Dennis. And I was just talking with your associate, Allison, here. And we were talking about this one thing about how you've launched AI as part of your thing and how cool that is. And I just love to talk to you about that. Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, cool. Allison, can you hold the phone? And so then we'll have this, and I've done this every time. So the person that just rejected me, that we had this great conversation, I'll say, because they just introduced me and they're standing here. So I'll say, can you just hold the phone real quick? And they do that. And then we have this great conversation. And that way it's immediate. We don't have to wait to set up all this stuff. Because if you lose the momentum, then it's, the CEO's got to go off and do some other thing. But you got them right there. You tell them it's 5 minutes. Right? You say, can we talk for 5 minutes? And they'll always say yes, because it's, you don't want to be rude for 5 minutes. But then they might even say, oh yeah, I can go for 10 minutes or, oh, okay. So then now you've gotten it even, you've doubled the window. Perfect. Yeah, and I've gotten so many videos this way. And then what I do is I take that video and I post it to like Facebook and YouTube, and I target people that work at that company because they know that's the CEO of their company. And then when those employees see that, I've done this enough times, I'm telling you, this is what happens. They forward that to the CEO saying, oh, you've been featured. Usually the PR people, like it gets to the PR people somehow, and they forward it to the CEO, and then it comes back to you. They're like, oh, thank you so much for featuring our CEO. Or often they'll say, oh, where he said this one thing, can you like cut that out? Because actually we have 28 customers instead of 26 customers of the new product, and we need to like, they'll try it, and I'm totally gracious, happy to make that change for you, no problem at all. Even send them the raw file and say, here, take it, do what you must. And they love that. And they don't judge you just because you have an iPhone, or they don't think, I'm going to look up this guy and find out he's just some 22-year-old kid still in college. That never happens. Because people don't care. In the real world, they don't care. When I was 22, I was doing this. It works. No, it works. And I think the biggest part is people don't judge you based on your age or how many followers you have. They judge you based on how you show up. And if you show up in sweatpants and a hoodie with some AirPods and you're, hey, can I interview real quick? No, but if you come and you actually put forth the preparation and the effort like we just talked about, there's no reason why you can't talk to these people. It happened to me when I was at the Ignite 26 conference for the Empower Brand. And I talked to plenty of people and handed out face socks and all of the Dennis U tropes. And it was great because I was able to talk to these people and get into rooms that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to get. Tell people about what the face socks, so people don't know what that is. So Dennis has this lovely philosophy and company that prints out Nike Elite, really nice quality socks that have printed pictures of faces on them. It can be their face, it can be the pet's face, it can be whatever. But usually you want it to be the person's face, right? And one thing that I had done for this conference that I was going to was I found the
list of all the executives of this big brand company that owns all of these different home service franchises. And I said, okay, I'm going to print out a pair of socks for each one of these executives, plus every brand president for every single brand of the franchise. And I said, and I'm not only going to do that, I'm also going to spend 30 minutes on each person researching about them, listening to their podcast, looking at their social media, looking at the articles that they've written, and find one thing that I liked about it. You don't have to know everything about it. Sometimes it would take me 5 minutes because it was a likable person that I found. Sometimes it would take me 30 because I was like, I don't know anything about whatever they're talking about. Let me find something relevant. So I find one thing and then I write a handwritten note saying, Dennis, I love how you run high-rise influence and have such an emphasis on building up the next generation instead of just living your luxurious life and going to parties and hanging out and doing all these fun things that normal rich people do. No, I love how you build up people around you and you have this unsatiable thirst of giving back. Put that in a note, throw a pair of face socks in there, and that person will never forget your name. And that's exactly what happened. I handed out all these socks. I handed it out to the CEO of Empower Brands, which is a $1 billion corporation. And now Scott Zeid, the CEO of Empower Brands, has a pair of socks with his face on it that has a note that says, from George Paladichuk and the Nail Team. And he will never forget that.
He's not going to throw it away.
It's
not some T-shirt that has your brand on it.
Exactly. You give them, and even if you do give them a T-shirt with a brand on it, don't make it yours. I'm not going to give someone a Nail T-shirt.
That's corny.
No. Give them an Empower T-shirt. Give them a High-Rise Influence T-shirt. Give them a Blitz Mets, whatever.
Yeah.
He sent a mug, an laser engraved metal thermos or something to Ryan Fenn of Chirp with Chirp's logo on it.
Yeah.
And all it said in the package was from Tim Brown, or had a nice message or whatever.
That's the way to do it.
What did Ryan do? What do you think he did?
Of course.
He took a picture,
shared it on
of the
social
mug,
media,
tagged Tim in the post, and said, man, this Tim guy knows how to market. Look at this great gift.
Now, how much do you think that's worth?
Can't put a number on it, because how many people are going to see that? How many contractors follow Ryan?
A lot.
How many contractors follow Ryan that might need a new agency?
And it comes with his trust.
Tim knows what he's doing.
You're an influence multiplier.
Thank you.
And the podcast is probably the best way to do that if you follow the other components to make it more powerful. What are some of the other things that young adults need to understand?
There's a lot of them, but I think in the context of this conversation, I think that you need to be okay with being told no. I think that especially in my generation and the ones that come before me, we've been conditioned to get what we want when we want it, from whether that be the internet or AI or whatever, what have you. And a lot of people are too scared, myself included, even today. They're too scared of being told no. They're too scared.
Even today.
It happens to everyone. Maybe not you. Happens to everyone. I think a lot of people are too scared of being told no, whether that's for a podcast, whether that's for whatever. Like, people are too scared of being told no. And I think that you need to realize that your life is not going to end because someone tells you no. Because they say...
But how often are they telling you no?
Not very often. So that's the thing, is you're so scared of when someone tells you. People tell you a whole hell of a lot less than what you actually think they do. And when they do, you say, wow, that kind of sucks. They told me no. And then what happens? You move on.
Yeah.
Life continues moving.
Yeah.
Nothing changes, right?
Yeah.
You're still the same person you were when you started that conversation. So I think a lot of younger people have a problem with being told no.
Yeah. Why did you join our AI coaching program? You reached out to me.
Yeah. Dennis had made a Facebook post 6 months ago, something like that.
6, 7 months ago.
Something like that. And the post said, hey, we have this program where we teach young adults on how to use AI in their businesses or how to use AI in other people's businesses. And I was like, hey, I'm a young adult that uses AI for other people's businesses. I was like, this is interesting to me. So I just wanted to see what it was all about. So I messaged Dennis and I say, hey, saw your post. I'd love to learn more about what actually goes on in this community. We hop on a call and I was prepared to be sold to. I was prepared to have this conversation where you ask me a set of questions, I answer them, you tell me, I think you'd be a great fit.
Typical sales process.
Yeah. Here's the cost, here's the investment. Where would you like to move from here? That's the script. And I was just wanting to know more about the program. I wasn't planning on buying anything. I didn't really want to join that much. But I hop on this call and Dennis does ask me a set of questions. I return and I ask him a set of questions about the program. But Dennis has this energy saying, I really don't need to be on this call right now. And I don't need you in my program. And
hopefully not in a pompous way.
No, but in a way that like I'm not here to convince
Yeah.
you to join this thing.
Yeah.
I'm not here to try and...
I don't need your money.
No, yeah. I don't need you in here. This program provides a lot of value to the people who are in it. And that caught me extremely off guard because I didn't really know what to say. And I think I even told you towards the end of the call, I said, what do we do? Where do we go from here? And you told me, you said, here's the cost to join. And if you want to join, great. If not, let me know. And I was like, okay. I sat there for 30 seconds and I was like, I wasn't planning on joining at all. But I was like, for some reason, I feel called to join this. And I did. And I think that it was one of the best decisions I made because I've been able to not only get over my irrational fear of beginning podcasting again, but I've also learned the power of relationships, which I was already doing, but I didn't know that I was doing it. And I didn't know how to amplify it. What I was surprised about was the fact that it was not like that at all. Not in the fact that you guys don't have information.
Everyone has the thing you log into. There's exercises and videos to watch and all that. Yeah.
But the biggest thing was I joined and I got some access to some information and I got whatever. And I was like, okay, cool. But then I hopped on the weekly call and I was like, you were like, George, this is your first call. What's going on in your day to day? And I told you, I was like, this is my problem. This is what's happening in my business right now. Here's where I want to go. Here's where I am now. And here's what I think is stopping me. And you were able to sit there and tell me, yeah, that is what's stopping you. Why aren't you going and doing it? And then I gave you a bunch of excuses and then you told me those excuses were stupid and you should just go do it anyway. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? You're right. They are kind of stupid. And then I went and did the thing. Yeah. And that's how we are sitting here today. So I think I expected it to be a lot more traditional. You log into any coaching program and you expect the same thing every time. But I was very surprised in the fact that I was able to actually sit down with you and with Jack and be able to sit and say, okay, here's what I'm actually doing. Here's what my business is about. Here's the problem that I have. And then you had actual real advice that came from lived experience. And I was able to put that into action.
What about the connections that you've made?
Chinese buffets did me again.
Yeah, it's good. Second time around.
In terms of connections that I've been able to make, the people that I have had the confidence to reach out to because of my connection with you has tenfolded. Not because I could say, hey, I know Dennis, but because
momentum.
Exactly. All you need is one. Exactly what you're saying. All you need is one. And then you can say, okay, they said yes, so why won't this other person say yes? And learning the value of what we're doing here right now and what we did today with Brad is extraordinary because I think people see it online and they see, okay, they're sitting down, they're doing a podcast, but they don't see everything else that's happening. They don't see the positive mentions that Brad is giving you during your podcast. They don't see the repost that Brad posted of my story. They don't see that, okay, Brad might be running for office in the future. Wouldn't it be real nice to have a connection of someone in office that you could leverage for anything? It's a much longer game than what I think a lot of people play. And especially in today's world where everyone does want things quickly. And a lot of times people are getting into the agency game or the SaaS game because they're trying to make a buck and they want to get my favorite things that you said on my podcast, the first episode, was they're money bros. There's all these other guys out there making money. So they all want to go and start making money. And so because they want to make money and they want to make it now, they engage in shady business practice, they engage in unethical behavior, or they just don't serve their clients in the way that they should be. And you go down this rabbit hole of negative business people that you don't want to be associated with. And so if you can stand out and be the person that in the crowd of the gray sheep, you can be the shining light by leveraging relationships, by leveraging the positive mentions that other people give you. That's more powerful than any ad. That's more powerful than any cold DM. That's more powerful than anything.
And so the credibility signals that you've been generating because of your association, because these are high-powered touches, that becomes even more valuable the more AI generated, the more tech AI this and AI that, the more what you're doing stands out. So even though technically, like we debated, should we even have AI in the name of our program? Because now people assume it's this technical thing and building bots and Terminators and that kind. It's not even that at all. It's actually deepening relationships. And that's how I knew the first time I met you. I already knew that you were going to walk this path and you were going to win. So I play an unfair game because on our team, I only want A players who I know are going to win. Because there's certain people where You just know that no matter what, they're going to win.
Yeah.
And there's other people, you could give them everything perfectly laid out and they're still going to mess it up and make excuses and just cause problems. And
Like the
it's just
sibling.
people are like that.
Yeah.
So what you can tell from being around these other people is that there's an esprit de corps.
Yeah.
Because we all lift each other up. Not, oh, this other guy made more money than me last month or anything like that.
Yeah.
I just think it's really cool because then if you talk to people like Frankie or other folks who run coaching programs, it's actually in the quality. If you pay $50K to go to a mastermind, I've spoken at a bunch of these $50K masterminds. You're there not because there's some figurehead who's like what's their name of the. It's because you are with other people and you're being held accountable. So it comes from them. So then really it's just the program or the figurehead or whatever is just a catalyst for those other components.
Exactly. People, I think Josh Nelson talks about this all the time, that the most powerful thing that happens at all of the seven-figure agency conferences is not that people come to see Josh and what he has to say.
It's not hero worship.
No, it's that the amount and the quality of people that he brings to the table that all are there to learn from each other. And listen to any seven-figure agency testimonial, and that's what they'll say. The power of the community, the power of the people that I'm around, the power of the people that are sitting at the table next to me, or the seat next to me, is why I come to these things.
Yeah.
And that's what influence us.
Yeah. Amen. So if you believe in that, follow what George is doing. And most people still don't know. You might think it's like late for the podcasting game, super early still.
Yeah.
And that's why people are still saying yes when you invite them. It's gotten late when they'll say no or everyone already it's still early. Like obviously I wish I was there 10 years earlier than that, but it's still very early.
Right. And people think it's saturated because everyone and their mom will say that they have a podcast, but who actually goes out and puts forth the effort and does it the right way?
Everyone's an AI expert.
But no, if you actually go out there and you put forth the effort and you do the podcast in the right way, you honor the person, you do it in person, you have real conversations about expertise that not only they have, but also you have, and you bring value to a conversation.
Yeah.
That's how you stand out.
Yeah. Final words of advice or encouragement for other young adults that own agencies or SaaS companies.
Yeah. This is a conversation, or this is a topic that Dennis and I were just talking about at dinner as well, which is the harder you work, the luckier you get. And that has been ever so true in my journey, which has been, I always knew that I was going to be something, that something was going to happen. I didn't know how, but I would figure it out. And I was going to do everything in my power to make sure that it happened. I didn't know what it was going to be. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I would do it, whatever it ended up being. And I have had that mindset since day one, and I still have that mindset. I don't know what the next 5 years are going to look like for me. I have these goals. I have these things that I want to accomplish. I want to sell the SaaS. I want to do all these things. I don't know how we're going to do that. I don't know what it's going to look like or what I'm going to need to do to get there. But I know for a fact that if I keep working hard and I keep putting forth the effort, that I will get lucky enough to do what I want to do.
Because you've done the hard work. You've got the right pieces in the right places.
Yep.
You have the right people in your corner.
Yep.
We have a lot of our friends who have already walked the path and have successfully exited and done the thing that you want to do.
Exactly.
And those people, we're also mentoring with people who are, there's levels to this game.
Exactly.
So you're meeting the people that are at the next level. And then when you hit that level, there's other people I want to introduce you to.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is so much fun.
I'm so excited. It just gets more and more fun the more you lather up.
George is thinking, okay, blinders, I'm just focusing on the next step. And I totally get that. As an entrepreneur, you have to do that. But just know that's not like when you sell the company, it's like you're giving up your babies in a way.
Yeah.
But and that's not even a good analogy. But there's, you know what I'm saying? Like,
there's more to go.
Get rid of your Toyota Camry to go for whatever the next thing is. Okay. Yeah. You love the Toyota Camry, but
no, that's something that I struggle thinking about because obviously I'm blinders on. I'm an operator. I'm like, okay, I want to get to there, but I need to focus on the now to make sure I can get to there, which is totally doable. But I also, when I'm in late at night, sitting in bed, whatever, I think about what's after that. And it daunts me because it's a black void, but it's reassuring to have the right people in the core. If you do things the right way and you build your influence, it's reassuring to know that if you have those people, that the next door will open and it'll be a whole hell of a lot bigger of a door than the one you just closed.
My mentors say entrepreneurship is like driving through the fog. In order to get to the destination, you still have to be willing to drive further enough along the road. But when you have mentors, it's the high beam. And they've driven this road before. And they can see ahead further than you. So, You know, when the plane lands in the fog, at least they have the avionics because they know where the runway is and all that. So even though they can't see it, you know where it tells you the altitude and speed and all that kind of stuff.
That's why the power of mentors is like, there is no explanation for the power of mentors and the power of people that are in your corner that want to see you succeed. It's the only reason, yes, I've actually gone and done the work. Dennis isn't going to do the work for me, but I have been able to leverage relationships with people like Dennis, like Jeff Lopez and Charles Guerra, like Frankie Fan, like all these people who have helped me. Sean Denon, even back in the day, was a coach of mine who just helped me get up off my feet. I would have not been able to do any of the things that I would have been able to do without leveraging the expertise, the knowledge, and the motivation from people like yourself. And so I think that finding someone who believes in you, that has the expertise that you need and has gone where you want to go, is invaluable.
Ask for help.
Yeah.
Learn what he's done. Or whatever your goal is, find someone who has done, who's not talking about it, not who's trying to sell a thing, but has actually done the thing that you want. And the more specific you can be about your visualization of that goal, the more you can find. Because if the goal is, I want to make $10 million and sell my company, that's not specific. It has to be really specific, because then the right mentor will appear.
Exactly. And I think like Dennis is one of my really specific mentors for what I want to do, because he's worked with enterprise clients. He's worked with SaaS companies. He's walked the path that I'm walking. And then I have other mentors that, like Jeff Lopez, he's a absolute genius when it comes to one-to-many selling and webinars. I need someone to help drive traffic and to sell. What am I going to do? I'm going to reach out to Jeff, because he is the specific expert in that field.
Who's done the thing that you want to do. It's a cheat code.
You just follow the playbook. You follow the recipe. Snoop Dogg and the
Mary
other
Blige or
I don't know. The other cook lady. They make the cookbook. All you got to do is follow the cookbook.
Amen. So love to hear, what do you guys think? Share, comment, subscribe.
Do all the things.
And that helps our channel out. Don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be like these 99% of other people. The crazy thing is, on the internet, you literally can just comment below and one of us will see this. And even if nobody saw it, there's still intention, because you are telling people that this is your goal. You are broadcasting to the universe, to God, whoever you believe in, that this is something you want. Other people can see that. And then it creates this internal consistency effect in your mind. Because until you say your goal, until you say what you're trying to do, until you put that intention out there, when you start putting it out there, it allows your subconscious mind and whatnot to organize towards the thing that you want. Which sounds very woo and spiritual, but coming from a search engine engineer, I'm telling you this is true.
No,
So,
it is true.
Otherwise, you might as well just watch cooking videos, which is like entertainment, but never actually cook.
Yeah.
Weird to actually cook.
That's the worst thing to do.
Awesome. Appreciate your guys' time, and we'll see you in the next episode.